The inequalities that you talk about is our school system. I mean, if you don't have the interests of my constituents, I can easily say no. I've said no to a lot of developers. In my race, I was not the chosen to win. We did not get any money from any developers, any big companies. My campaign was 100% funded by residents and real people. We have to start saying sometimes no. While there might be opposite interests or even jealousy, if you have a relationship with someone, you can just remove that. And one thing I realized, the colorism issue among the Black community is a serious one.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Deep Dive Podcast. My name is Raissa, and we have.
And I'm Gloria.
And today we have a special guest, Mrs. Wala. She is the voice of working families, the challenger of broken system, and a woman who is not afraid to shake the table. Elected to Prince George's County in 2022, Mrs. Wala came in bold, pushing the healthcare reform, teenage rights, and real accountability. From the courthouse to council chamber, Mrs. Wala's fight is about more than just policy. It's about people. It's about making government do what it's supposed to do to serve. But behind every policy, there is a purpose. And behind that, there is pressure, politics, people, and power. Today, we'll get into all of that and we'll see what it really takes to fight for the community and for the system. From the courthouse to the council chamber, help us welcome Mrs. Wale.
How you all doing? I'm Walla Blegay. I have been involved. I've been a county council member now for almost 3 years, so it has been quite a ride. My family's from Liberia and Nigeria, and really my parents came here for better opportunity. And when I was born, my dad made it clear to me that this was the country that I was going to be raised, and that I had opportunity. This was during the Liberian Civil War, where cousins and family members were facing violence. But I had all this opportunity here, regardless of what we had to overcome. I decided that I wanted to engage in the community, and I've been engaged ever since. When I got to University of Maryland, I got so active in the community, making sure that I interned at the the Maryland General Assembly, and that took me on the journey that led me to the county council. But from my work, and I was to say this, I was an advocate before I became an elected official. My advocacy started in the community. In fact, we worked on temporary protective status for the Liberian community. I worked on legal support for parents that had children that were at the school that had mold in the school. We worked on making sure I started to chat with the lawyer to connect residents for with lawyers that can assist them to know their rights. And from there, I ran for office. Actually, this was my second time. My first time running was for state delegate in 2018, and I did lose that election, but I was not deterred. And I decided that I could serve my community, especially Prince George's County, as a council member, trying to bring quality development to the community. So when I won, I was elected by my peers as vice chair within my first year. And after that, I jumped in. We had the People's Agenda that was under my leadership of the council. And our People's Agenda was about bringing quality healthcare to the county. So I focused on longer emergency room wait times. We've created a task force that's still studying and finalizing that now. We had a mental health town hall focusing on the issues of mental health and what's going on and how we are at the county, are we addressing the concerns of mental health. I introduced a bill to bring healthy restaurants, incentivizing healthy restaurants in a community that had food swamps. And then continued, we worked on rent stabilization, which is so important now as we see mass evictions in our community. It was such a successful year, pushing for quality development. And I would say I've continued on. We introduced legislation that brought a hearing process to the homeowners association. I introduced legislation bringing electric vehicle infrastructure into the county, and we haven't stopped. I'm continuing doing the good work because people need a voice.
Wow.
Wow, that's very impressive.
Impressive,
So
right?
it's really great to know that you've been doing so much good work in the PG County community. So, what really inspired you to get into politics?
Well, honestly, it was really my family's impact on in Liberia. I would tell you all this, like with when I was growing up, like, it was the acts of the presidents and the elected officials that made a difference. Like that's what led the country into a 14-year civil war. My parents were always so interested in politics. In fact, when I was young, when Liberians were coming into the country to get support for them that was coming on TPS status, we went to the DC Council when I was and this was 94, so 6 7 years old at the DC Council. We went to Prince George's County Council, county executive. Actually, we met with Paris Glendenning. I remember that. We even have the pictures from those meetings when I was 10 years old. So I always tell people, bring your kids because your kids can be learning. And after that, my mom just got involved in the DC politics. So we were going to council meetings, we were going to community hearings all over Ward 4 in DC. And so, really, that was always in the back of my mind. Believe it or not, having a Nigerian mom, I was always pushed that, I was going to be a doctor. So that was what I was told for a long time, regardless of the fact that politics was always swirling around me. I ended up going to University of Maryland, and in my first year, I actually took pre-med classes and everything, but I just wasn't into it. And I took this government 100 class. I never forget it. And it was a beautiful woman. Actually, she was a Caribbean woman. She taught, and I was just so into it. Everyone said, "Wow, you're this is a passion of yours." And I actually said to her, I was like, what can I do to get involved? She said, "Oh, you should work on Capitol Hill or work in the legislature." So I did. I went to the Career Center. I did research, and there was an opportunity at the Maryland General Assembly. And I would tell you, the person that I ended up working for became my true inspiration. It was a delegate that was super young. And he was about maybe late 20s, but I didn't even realize because in me, I'm in college. He seems old, like a older man. But the
Right.
truth is, he was so young, and he actually was like Prince George's County. I was not from Prince George's County, originally from DC, and I was gonna go back to DC, but he was like, "This is we need people like you involved." After my internship on the General Assembly, and I loved it so much, and I said, "Man, I'm all in." And he said, "Well, you're on a team." I said, "I'm on a team." And after that, I continued to work with him. I worked on a number of campaigns, worked for Attorney General race, a state Senate race, and then I worked for Congressman Steny Hoyer. I worked in the fifth congressional district, doing work throughout the three counties on four counties on women issues and more and constituent service. And then I went to law school because I felt like I was limited um, in my advocacy. So I wanted to actually be a lawyer to advocate. And for 8 years, I was a union lawyer for nurses. And that was the one of the best jobs I had to fight. Nurses oftentimes are ones that just care about quality healthcare, but they don't really advocate for themselves because all they care for is what their patients are getting. But I became their voice, and I said, if you I know you want to fight, but you're too busy, you're too overwhelmed. Let me be your fighter. And for 8 years, we fought for nurse patient ratios, a nurse in every school. I say bringing many jobs back pay, bringing proper pay to nurses. We fought, and that was really a great opening for me. And when I decided to run, I just knew that I could take this fight to a bigger platform.
Okay.
Wow.
Wow.
That's truly amazing. So you actually, started from the bottom and then you worked your way up, and it just took that one course in school that just sparked your career.
Changing. Mm-hmm.
Amazing.
Mm-hmm.
That's really great.
Thank you.
So, Prince George's County, right, is predominantly Black owned, yet we still see a lot of systemic issues. Do you think, we're doing enough to handle the inequality and the systemic issues that we're still facing?
It's not enough to be, it's so much work to do, and there's really just not enough resources for the work, even with the county. The county, we are talking about the richest African American county, wealthiest in the country. But the reality is that there's the inequalities that you talk about, is our school system. The reality is most, when we looked at free and reduced lunches, we're talking about what's happening at the national level when Trump is cutting the Department of Education. One thing we saw was over 60% of the students in our school system are on free and reduced lunches. What does that tell you? That they're mostly in poverty. Our public school system, regardless of the wealth that we have, there is a lot of need, and we don't have the budget to fulfill the need. Today, I just got a notice that over 200 residents in my district have been evicted, and that happened, that basically they will be evicted for the next week. They're being evicted every day. Where do we have nowhere for them to go? The homeless shelters are full. In the county, we do not have enough homeless shelters. In order for us to build one, we were going to have to find money to build enough homeless shelters for all of the homelessness that we are seeing. We have a limited number of affordable housing. Many of our residents, even we're finding that our seniors right now are living on the edge, because most of them that are get to that point where they can't really work anymore, they're bringing in about 1700 a month, and their rent is 1600. I even dealt with one lady who had a home that she's paying a mortgage of 1200, and her social security check is 1250. So how is she going to get groceries? How is she going to pay her water bill, her electricity? So she doesn't really pay it. She pays a little bit a month to them, but now it's piled up and they had to cut it off. That's why we came in. But the reality is that there's so much need. So don't let the big houses fool you, because we don't come from families of wealth. We also have a huge population of immigrants who are very hardworking. However, with a large immigrant population, there comes a need for language issues. There comes a need of just support all around that we have to look into and actually support. And so the county has a $5.4 billion budget.
Okay.
Montgomery County has a $7.7 billion budget with less need than we have, and DC has a $20 billion budget. We have 1 million people here. So does Montgomery County, with $2 billion more. DC has 700,000 people, and they have a budget that's 4 times bigger than ours. So there is an issue, is that while we have the growing number, I mean, the good thing is that, again, you cannot discard away the wealth that has been built and now that's being attacked. A lot of the African American community that grew and built the Prince George's County that we now know today were federal government workers that started to move after the MLK riots. They moved to Prince George's County. That started in the 70s. If the MLK riots was in 1968 and started to break down the place, people started to get good jobs in the federal government and moved to Prince George's County. That was what built the wealth that we see now that's being attacked now. Right now, we just had an event with Anthony Brown about the virtual legal forum. And during that forum, almost everybody there was so scared because they were getting notices. IRS gave a notice they were laying off. They're giving a notice at NASA that they're laying off. See,
Right.
Consumer Protection Agency just got a notice yesterday that they're being laid off. So right now they're trying to crack the back of the county. But we won't let that happen, and we're looking for ways to save our residents. But I would tell you, if we start seeing a high number of foreclosures, remember the county had some of the highest foreclosure numbers in the country in 2008, and we don't want to go back to those days.
Right. You touched on some really good points, especially with with all the craziness that's going on right now. So a lot of people are being affected, and also small business owners. Right. So I also wanted to know, like, what is your district doing to support small business owners in these difficult times?
I'm glad you mentioned that. During we did with FSC First, there is an EDI fund. FSC First is our funding source. We, the county, along with other entities, fund FSC First, which is basically a bank that supports small businesses in the county. We
Mhm.
have an EDI fund that we can approve funding for various small businesses. We do have the EDC, which is the Economic Development Corporation, which is supposed to provide guidance to our small business. Now, one thing I'm doing is I'm having an African business forum for small businesses on April 30th, and anybody can come to that. And that's not just for African businesses. The group that's organizing our African business owners, but anybody can come. But what we're trying to do, we have a lot of African American business owners, Latino, Caribbean, all of those. And what we found is that they are working on their own without much support. We are trying to improve our permit process so it's easier to get through the permit process so that people can open seamlessly. We're also trying to look at ways to make sure that minority business owners get priority in opportunities. And we're meeting with our Office of Procurement. We created the Office of Procurement because many people were saying they had a very hard time navigating the procurement process for the county. So we created this office to have navigators that can bring our small businesses through the process of getting their business with doing business with the county. My goal is to make it easier for people to know that Prince George's County is open for business. We do have new development coming, and we want to make sure in those pad sites for our new development. Mill Branch is one of the big ones. It's not in my district, but it's not too far away. I have Westphalia and others, and we want to make sure I'm reaching out to small business to say, if this is coming, would you be interested in possibly leasing a space there? So we're looking at that to create opportunity for small businesses in the county.
That's
Wow.
amazing. I had no idea you guys were doing all this work. So it's great that, you're able to share,
Mhm.
and people who might be listening, it might pique their interest as well. So thank you for that, Miss
Just
Congresswoman.
just a follow-up question, because a lot of people are hearing all this, we're working on the permit, we're working on this, but is that a
Mhm.
time frame? Do you guys have a time frame in mind where it's like, we know for a fact that by this time, we would have the permit process a lot more seamlessly. By this time we will have this. Is there a time frame in mind so people don't just wait, aimlessly and they never get to see the results?
Well, I would tell people they would have to have a little patience right now. We do have a new county executive that's coming in on June, Aisha Braveboy, who is the current state's attorney. And what she is planning on doing is doing um, a whole change of the process. But what we do first is an assessment. And when they're going to have a group that's going to come in and do an assessment and determine what needs, where is it difficult? Because let me just tell you, there has been an upgrade and change in the permit process. There's been a change in even the process to file applications to develop in the county. We have had all that. The Office of Procurement is an example of a response to the concern. Many people say they don't know how to navigate the procurement process for the county and needs people who can help. So we opened that last year to make it easier for small businesses to come in and actually have a support group or a support agency that can help them so they don't have to hire lawyers or figure out how to do it on their own and feel that they don't have any assistance. But I will say with under Aisha, there will be some changes. So I do think that we'll have to have a little patience, giving the new county executive some time to assess the concerns and make changes.
Okay, awesome.
Okay.
So, piggybacking off of the small business owners and permits and advocacy. So, I recently saw you at Sky Vibe Restaurant and Lounge, and I also noticed that you do a lot of different events, including the Valentine's Day Jazz Brunch and the Free Tax Clinic.
And her birthday is coming up too, and she's
Yeah.
Yes. So, what motivates you to keep doing these events?
Well, honestly, we want people to feel engaged. One of the things that I noticed, I knocked over 10,000 doors in my district. And I will tell you, most of the people that I spoke with were saying they did not feel supported by their government. They don't know what the government's doing. They're not sure what's going. So we have these events to kind of bring support to what's going on. With that free tax clinic, I was really surprised. I had had a number of nonprofits come to me and say, we want to have a event in the district because we have people who need support with tax support, preparation support. So for the first time, we listened and did it. And to be honest, almost over 30, over almost 50 people showed up with such two and less than a week's notice where they needed support. In fact, it was supposed to be from 10 to 2 p.m. and we did
Mhm.
not end till 6 p.m. because there were so many people who needed support. Now, why am I going to Sky Vibe and some other restaurants? Well, because we are in terrible need of restaurants. But what we find is that every year we go to ICSC, which is in Vegas, to try to look for business, bring businesses back. But what we
Right.
find is that you got to go chasing after them when we have people who here can provide the quality that we're looking for. So when
Mhm.
we saw a lot of the new restaurants that exist in the county, especially in my district, a lot of that is coming from people who live here who have an interest in bringing something quality here. So they're literally working with us to try to see what we can do. Sky Vibe is a good example.
Mhm.
Adebayo, Mr. Bello, he is a Bowie resident, and he invested in one place in Bowie, and then he took his investment and then opened up a place in Laurel. And so, and it is very quality, and that's what people want. They said they're tired of having to travel to other jurisdictions to sit down for a nice meal. And
Mhm.
that's part of the quality of living. And to be honest, somebody even said this, when you look at the top places to live in a country,
Mhm.
at least four of those top places are right our neighbors. So what
Mhm.
means is that we're in competition, meaning people who can afford to buy a house in Prince George's County can afford to go to Falls Church, can afford to go to Alexandria or Montgomery County. So we want to make sure people understand if they're coming here, they're not going to need to go anywhere else. Only by choice should they leave the county, and we have a ways to work to get to that point.
Right. Okay.
Awesome. Thank you.
So talking about, let's talk about a little bit about power and influence. How do you handle lobbyists, or like just influential people who come to you for whatever reason or the other, but do not have your constituents' best interest at heart?
I mean, if you don't have the interest of my constituents, I can easily say no. I've said no to a lot of developers. And some of them they've went to court and fought me, and they're still in court fighting us. It's fine because some things I have no commitment to them because let me just tell you this. In my race, I was not the chosen to win. We did not get any money from any developers, any big companies. My campaign was 100% funded by residents and real people who believed in me. So when I got in, that was
Not
not
done for that.
typical.
Actually, that is
Thank
amazing.
you. It was a hustle, but it was so worth it because the freedom that I have. A lot of people come in and they have these tickets, and the tickets are supported by these developers. And then now the developer can kind of tell them, this is what I want. And then they don't feel the power to say no because this person has invested but money. When I
Mm.
came in, developers had to come to me and I said, look, I'll see. Let me look into this and see what it means for my residents. And I have to do that. And I've been that consistent with that because I have the freedom. I cannot, and I told people that wanted to do politics as usual when I came in, they came to me and they said, well, I mean, we all need to get along and these developers, we don't want to run them away. We don't want to be anti-business, blah, blah, blah. The truth is every developer that said that has consistently been involved in the county, but what we have found is that we don't want to limit the opportunity. We want to open ourselves up to all types of people that want to come in and develop in the county. So I'm open to many, and I'm not going to sit with the same few that have hogged down the county and sometimes not brought quality here. It's time that we, in a way, we have to start saying sometimes no.
Okay.
Okay, okay. So I noticed that you met with Senator Van Hollen recently. I was
Mhm.
wondering if there are any collaborations or partnerships that were discussed during the meeting that you had with him.
Well, yeah, so he has been really supportive. The biggest issue that we need right now is support for our federal workers. In fact, I just don't know if you know, but he just arrived to Dallas Airport today at 3 o'clock. And so a
No,
lot of our colleagues went to greet him and everything. But the meeting I had with him, he was very open about providing the support for our community. Number one, our federal workers. We have over 73,000 federal workers in the county. And and basically it's concerning for us, even though we have close to 1 million people. That's a good chunk of people that would impact our tax base. I mean, 70% of our tax base are based on residential taxes. So if those people lose their jobs, will they be able to pay their bills? And in general, we don't want our residents to have to get to the point where they're being foreclosures and removed from their homes and can't feed their kids and things like that. So
Right.
he said that he was going to be diligent in making sure that we fight until we can change this administration. As you can see, when it came to immigration, his office has been so supportive. You can see he went to El Salvador, but when this began, he made it clear that they were going to do everything to protect our residents. You all know I've been involved with a lot of immigrant communities, including my parents are immigrants. So I know a lot of people that don't have the full status, still waiting for their status from immigration right now, and they are in limbo and nervous because this could end up in deportation. What has happened with Kilmar can happen to anybody. And we also hear that they've been threatening even arrest people who have full status. Some people with green card status are very nervous and scared. So
Mhm.
we did meet with him, and his staff has been very supportive of any cases that we've sent their way for people to support them. So with meeting with Van Hollen, he's been one of the most supportive senators that we have had, and I'm just not surprised of the mood he made to get to go to El Salvador.
Okay,
Wow.
awesome.
Wow.
Thank you.
That's great. That's really good. I mean, we
Hmm.
can definitely tell that you have Prince George's County in heart. When you go and you talk to all these different senators and you're showing now trying to represent the county. So you
Hmm.
were elected the vice chair on within your first time of running, which is
Hmm.
truly unheard of. So how do you handle this industry where you're in when there's a lot of like ego, tradition, bureaucracy, and all of that collides? How do you handle that?
Well, it's all about relationships. And what I've learned is I'm developing relationship with various people to make sure not everyone we need to fight, but some people we need to realize that while there might be opposite interests or even jealousy, if you have a relationship with someone, you can just remove that and you could tell them we're all together in this. This is not about one person, but this is about the people. And so I've developed relationships over time. Even people that I've fought with at the beginning, we're working together now. So we're learning that it's about collaboration because sometimes even though you might get not getting along with someone, they might have some interests of people that you're representing at heart.
Yeah.
And you all might agree on how you move or how you do it. I would say for development, that's really the way where you clash with a lot. Some people have say, look, even though we're a developer, we care about the county too, and this is the direction we should go in. And sometimes we just don't agree. And rent stabilization is a good example. I do believe that we should implement rent stabilization, but a lot of developer has said that because of that, that stops development. But the reality is, as I told you today, 200 individuals will be displaced.
Okay, okay, okay. That's
So
so
it's one of those things that if you don't address it, who's going to handle? The county has to foot the bill for 200 individuals. If they can't find places to live, that could resolve in homelessness in the community. That
Right.
can desperation without food and resources can mean that the people could start to rob people if they
Right.
feel that way.
Crime rate.
Um, and then you have to think about what happens to the mental health of children who are displaced
Mm.
yeah,
and parents.
right. Yeah, it affects both parents and children as well.
Yeah.
You're right about
Hmm.
that. Also, I wanted to know what advice would you give women, especially women of color, looking to get into politics or leadership roles?
I would tell them that they should be themselves. I mean, it is hard being a black woman. Sometimes you have to be the aggressive one. And some people don't like aggressive women to a certain extent. But you have to be who you are because sometimes you got to be that aggressive person to get it done.
Right.
And if a man is aggressive, people are not so critical. But when a woman is, some people say, well, that's not ladylike or that's not how a woman should carry yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to be aware of that, and also ignore the noise. I mean, when I was running, I remember there was one elected official that told someone that I wasn't pretty enough to win my election because of my skin color, or my being darker skin. And I never forget that, because I thought that every woman should realize that that was such a distraction. And for a while, it distracted me because it was so frustrating to
Yeah.
be told, for someone to say that. And there were, in my race, it was five women all, and I was a darker skinned woman, and the other women were lighter skinned. And just to hear that, it was like, from even a woman elected official, was hurtful, because it really means that she doesn't even get it if she's in this group. But the point is, what I found is that while I was running, I had a lot of criticism about my hair,
Mm-hmm.
and about my how my makeup was applied, and about my weight, and about the type of clothes I wear, or whether my nails were done, or whether I wore proper earrings, or and it was just, and I would tell you, and I would say that I know that I serve with males, and we've talked about how people say this about us as women, and the men would say, wait, how they say that? They don't even realize, no one even comes to a man and tells them what their hair should look like, how they should dress, whether they look good or not, what shade should they wear in their hair, whether they don't care. Like, when people do that with women, but with men, but with women, they do that. And you just have to ignore it. I just think it's hard to ignore, because it's a part of your identity by how you look. Or even just if somebody attacks your shade, right? That is telling people that's a part of you. That's your identity, right? And for them, you're kind of thinking, are people thinking this? And one thing I realized, the colorism issue among the Black community is a serious one, and it still exists in our community. And I experienced it, and now I know it. I'm more aware of it. But you can't let those things distract you. But they are very distracting, and it is a bit of a tough pill to swallow when it first happens.
Okay. So you want to add
Yeah, I
something?
do want to say,
Okay.
so it's really great that you're sharing this, because sometimes people might see you and they see you have a position of power. People may not know what you've been through, and that someone that looks like us, is able to go through adversities and still stand strong. And Black is beautiful, and you're a beautiful woman,
Hmm.
by the way. So
You
it's
are.
great to see someone that looks like us that's
Hmm.
able to accomplish so many beautiful things and help the constituents in PG County. On a lighter note, so you've been through a lot of adversities, you've done a lot of great things. What is one song that really motivates you at the moment? That when you listen to this song, it just makes you, you're in a good mood, you're in a good spirit.
Well, I would definitely think about, it's one of those things where once you get into these positions, you have to kind of talk to God. And, there's a song about, I love you, Lord.
Mm,
And I just thought about just like that type of a thing. That song speaks to me, because it does, you appreciate God more when you're in these spaces that are very stressful. And
amen.
you appreciate to actually tell God, I love you, because I feel very appreciative that God put me in this position. I Before I won my election in 2022, um I had a surgery that was supposed to be a very simple surgery. But I woke up um intubated, and basically had lost blood, half of the blood in me. And I just thought, and then when I got out of that, and I said to my friend, I said, I better win this election, because I had stopped everything to do that surgery, and then I was going to start running. And I think God did that to remind me, because I was stressing about this, stressing about that. What if I lose? What if I don't win? What if I did? Blah, 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 blah. All this back and forth, because politics is rough. Some people think it's so easy looking from afar, but it is difficult, because it is you. When someone rejects you as a candidate, they're rejecting you, not this product that you're selling, not, this makeup that you're pushing, not this project that you're trying to get people, that they are rejecting you as a person.
Right.
And so it is a difficult pill to swallow. But after I went through that surgery, it took all the fear out. It almost like wiped it off. and I was stopped having this doubt of like, what if I lose? What if I don't get this? What if I don't get that? And everything that I said, what if actually happened? What if I don't get support of the establishment? Didn't get that. What if I don't get the support of this and that and this and that? Didn't get it, but I want. And so it was one of those things where it prepared me because if I had seen all of those things coming, and then I went and ran, I would have been going through anxiety attacks. And I
Yeah.
didn't because I think God prepared me um, for what I was going through. So,
Wow. Okay. And then just this is would be the final question. What
mhm.
think what made you win? If someone is like, what made you win that election, what would you say it was?
Door knocking. It was knocking on doors. It was when I tell you today, every day I run into someone and say, "Did you remember you knocked on my door?" I actually have to get better at not because I don't remember because I
Oh,
knocked on so many doors. So some
wow.
people will be like, "Hey, don't you remember me?" And I gotta say, "Yeah, I remember you," even though I don't,
Right.
because that is literally just how many doors I knocked. When I started realizing, I said, this is going to be a crowded race. Everybody's talking about who's this, who's that. That door knocking really saved me. It was a solace that I needed because when you're hearing all the noise, if somebody says, oh, this person isn't pretty enough to win, they don't have this much support, they don't have the endorsement of this person didn't endorse, blah, 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 blah. When
Mm,
you're hearing that and you're knocking on doors, it tells you exactly what people really think because nobody's going to lie to you at the doors. They owe you nothing. They're going
yeah.
to tell you, oh, I like this person and that person's not supporting you. Oh, this and that. And one wasn't hearing that at the doors. People were just saying this is the issue that they cared about.
Mhm.
But so I got intense knocking every day, 50 or more doors every day. And I when I wasn't, and I actually had to even, and at one point somebody told me no more events, door knock.
Right.
So it just door knock. And it honestly, it is the best thing ever because no matter what, people kind of do this where you'll say, like, look, I'm running, I would like your support. They'll be like, well, I have to see, I gotta read your stuff and I'll let you know. And they'll
Mhm.
close the door. They're gonna support you because you were probably most likely the only person that knocked on their
That
door.
they've seen, or even
Exactly.
they've probably even heard of, or
Right, right,
you
That's
know,
right.
right.
because people only care about like the bigger elections, right? Like presidency,
Exactly.
the government. But when it
Right.
comes to like councilwomen and things like that, people are like, they whoever.
They don't, right. They don't even know who's running it. They don't even know your opponent. So that's
Right.
when people are saying, oh, this person has all the support. I'm knocking on doors. And I
Mm,
literally would sometimes ask, do you guys know anybody else running? And they'll be like, no. Or they will call out like, oh, Asa Brooks. And it's like, but she's right. She's the county executive. Like that's not the person. So they're just like calling out a random name of somebody they
mm,
might know locally.
mm,
So it just realized that there was no real person. It really is good to do because if you do have somebody who has all this support, you will know because people
mm,
would tell you. But it was like the best thing. And to be honest, I had knocked on so many doors that by the end of the election, so by the time, so I knocked on doors for pretty much most of the election. And then at the end, I had video ads, I had Facebook ads, I had all of these ads. We had phone banking, all this stuff. And I remember at the end, a lady called that I started knocking on doors the last month, and people were like, you're just doing too much. We've heard you. We've seen your stuff at this point.
okay.
Leave us alone. But it was an indication when I got to the polls, I was not scared. The first time I ran, I was like running to each person. And then this time I let other people talk because I had already done my job. Like I've already done after all these people would talk to the person would come to me. They'd be like, you don't remember you knocked on my door? Boom.
Mm,
There it is. And that was really what it was. And when we won, it wasn't that close. And everyone thought it was gonna be like the other person was going to be way ahead of me, but it wasn't because we had knocked on so many doors that people literally were tired of hearing from me.
Wow, I love that. That's community engagement. Because
Hmm.
I do a lot of community engagement as well with what I do, and in entrepreneurship business, you still need to engage with the community, not just social media. You need a mixture of both. So it's great that you're able to share this little secret that helped you win your race, so that people listening can understand that you still need to do the work and engage with the community, and not just focus on social media.
Yeah,
So.
social media doesn't. It's like a padding after all the other stuff that's done. Yeah.
Right, exactly.
mhm.
Thank you so much, Miss Congresswoman. Raissa, do you want to say anything else before you close?
Yes. Yeah. So thank you so much, for coming. And it was really a pleasure meeting you at the International Women's Day conference. I
Mhm.
mean, the same energy you had then is the same you're having right now, which means you're pretty consistent, right, across the board.
Mhm.
Very welcoming. Your team, really great. Shout out to Sonia who put this together. I we were
Yes, I'm so
back and
sorry.
forth, and she was very responsive, and we really appreciate
Mhm.
that. But I think that will be it. We would be sure to leave your handles, your website. Do you have anything, any social media platform that you want people to follow if they're looking to see
Yeah.
the work you're doing?
Yeah, so Walla Blegay, if you look me up, or Walla KB on Instagram, we definitely will be updated on everything we have coming up, and we keep people really informed. And if you reach out to us or message us, we'll add you to our listserv. But you will get something from us at least once or twice a week.
Perfect.
Awesome.
All right.
Thank you so much for coming on the Deep Dive podcast with Gloria and Raissa. And I hope that we'll get a chance to meet you in person soon, maybe at your
Her
birthday.
birthday. Right.
Yes, yes, that would be great if you guys could cover that. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be a pool, and we're gonna be out. It's gonna be a cookout.
Oh,
Hmm.
Yeah, I can't
Hmm.
wait. All right. Thank you. Well, have a great day. And
All
people that are
right,
listening,
thank you,
don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you.
thank you.
bye.